History remembers kings, battles, and empires. But what about the voices erased from the story? Tonight, I will take you behind the jeweled curtains of ancient Persia, not to speak of the emperors who conquered continents, but of a forgotten boy, stolen from his village and delivered into a palace of silence. His ankles were bound in iron, his wrists cut by rope, his back marked with lashes for every stumble on the mountain stones. And as the golden gates of Persia rose before him, taller than any dream, he was not welcomed as a guest, or even as a prisoner. He was property, stepping into a world where his name would soon disappear. They stripped him of the mountain wool, washed away the smell of smoke and soil with rose water, and wrapped his body in silk so heavy he could hardly move. Courtiers leaned in close, their whispers curling like smoke, measuring his face as though it were a coin, a currency for others to spend. Perfume clung to his skin until he no longer smelled like himself. And with each day, his true name faded, spoken less and less, until it vanished entirely. In the Persian court, kings were called the shadow of God, but boys like him were shadows with no names. The boy learned quickly that survival was silence, to smile was safety, to speak was danger. Every glance, every bow, every breath was a performance. He laughed when others laughed, though he did not understand the jokes. He poured wine into cups too heavy for his trembling hands, always lowering his gaze. And when night fell, when music faded and the palace grew heavy with silence, those were the longest hours. Footsteps echoed in the corridor. Sometimes they passed. Sometimes they paused outside his door. And each night he held his breath, praying they would move on, because he knew what it meant when they did not. One evening, beneath the glow of torches, the king's eyes found him. Not in the chaos of war, not in the splendor of a festival, but in the quiet pause of a feast. The boy stood at the edge of the hall, his head lowered, the wine jug heavy in his arms. And yet, the king noticed. From that night on, he was never alone. Guards followed his steps. Courtiers whispered louder. He was no longer just a servant. He was both ornament and prisoner, displayed like a jewel, polished too often. And what had once been freedom to laugh with other boys, to taste fruit in the gardens, disappeared forever. In Persia, favor was as deadly as betrayal, and the boy soon learned that the king's affection, which had marked him as special, also marked him for ruin. Whispers grew sharper, more poisonous. He dines with the king. He lingers too long at his side. His smile shines brighter than the rest. Nobles who had spent years bleeding on battlefields for a place near the throne now saw this fragile boy seated above them, shimmering in golden robes. To the king, he was a jewel. To the court, he was an insult. And beneath the music of the banquet, envy sharpened into daggers. That night, the palace fell silent. The golden lamps dimmed, the celebration ended. And in the hush of midnight, footsteps stirred once more. The boy, half asleep, thought it was the king. His heart raced, his breath caught, but the perfume of incense did not follow, only the iron stench of steel. Several shadows filled the doorway. No words were spoken. No mercy was planned. His golden robe slipped from his trembling shoulders as he backed away, clutching the sheets like a shield. His youth, once worshipped, was now his crime. What entered his chamber that night was not desire, but death. Persia is remembered for its kings, its armies, its empires that stretched across continents. But behind those golden walls, nameless boys were brought and broken. Not warriors, not rulers, but shadows in the margins of history. They vanished not by chance, but by design, their laughter stolen, their youth devoured, their stories erased beneath silk and stone. Tonight you have walked through corridors the world tried to silence, and silence endures longer than empires. Perhaps the walls of Persia still remember. Perhaps in the ruins, The whispers of those forgotten boys still linger, soft as dust, heavy as truth. And if you listen closely, you may still hear them. Good night.